Tavakathamratam tapta jivanam Kavibhirididam kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadatam Bhuvikrinanti te bhurita janaha. O Lord, your words, like sweet nectar, refresh the afflicted. Your words, which poets have sung in verses, vanquish the sins of the worldly. Blessed are they who hear of you, and blessed indeed are they who speak of you. How great is their reward. We are continuing with the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We are doing chapter 25. We are continuing that, but it's a entry for another day. It's called, that chapter is called Advice to Pandit Shashadhar. This is, today what we are doing is Thursday, July 3rd, 1884. Sri Ramakrishna was sitting in Balaram Bose's house in Calcutta. It was the day of the return car festival. The Lord of the universe was worshipped in Balaram's house at Jagannath. There was a small car in the house for use during the car festival. It's one of the famous festival of the Jagannath, Puri Jagannath, the car festival. The Lord is taken out into the chariot, and people draw the chariot and taken on for a week. He's taken to another place. And then after 2 weeks, he'll be coming back. So it's called the Return of the Car Festival. Here, Return Car Festival is July 3rd. And Balaram Bose's house, they have their family deity is Jagannath, they worship, and there is food offering. So Sri Ramakrishna had no difficulty in having cooked food in Balaram's house. That's the only place where Sri Ramakrishna ate cooked food. Otherwise, at other devotees' house, he had just some snacks, sweets, and maybe just water. But rice he ate in Balaram's house, because he said Balaram's house is the food is offered to Jagannath, Lord Vishnu. Balaram's father was a pious Vaishnava who devoted most of his time to prayer and meditation in his garden house at Vrindavan. He also studied devotional books and enjoyed the company of devotees. Balaram had brought his father to Calcutta to meet the master. Being a pious devotee of Lord Vishnu, he spent his time in Vrindavan. They have got a house, and later we can see Sri Ramakrishna's disciples, whenever they went to Vrindavan, they stayed in that house, with Balaram's house. And here in Calcutta also, they had been so many times. Sri Ramakrishna had visited Balaram's house 100 times. Balaram had kept a record of all the dates, which day he came and everything. So he's really a blessed person. Sri Ramakrishna was in a very happy mood. Seated near him were Balaram's father, M. Manomohan, and several young devotees. He was conversing with them, master to Balaram's father and others. The Bhaktamala is one of the Vaishnava books. It's a fine book. It describes the lives of the various Vaishnava devotees, but it is one-sided. At one place, the author found peace of mind only after compelling Bhagavati, the Divine Mother, to take her initiation according to Vaishnava discipline. Once I spoke highly of Vaishnavacharan to Madhur and persuaded him to invite Vaishnavacharan to his house. Vaishnavacharan is another great devotee of Vishnu. And Vaishnavacharan was one of the great scholars that Madhur Babu invited to decide whether Sri Ramakrishna is an incarnation of God. When those who have studied the life of Sri Ramakrishna, we know Bhairavi Brahmani, after listening to Sri Ramakrishna's all the spiritual experiences, she said he is not just a devotee, he is an incarnation of God, God taken a human form. And Madhur Babu and other officials of the temple was, shocked, skeptical. What is this? This priest, incarnation of God. Then Brahmani challenge, invite all the scholars and have a debate. I'll prove. So Madhur Babu invited Vaishnava, one of the leading authority on among the followers of Vishnu, and Gauri Pandit, who is a leading authority on among the tantrics, the followers of Tantra. And Vaishnava, Bhairavi Brahmani put in her argument, and in the end, Vaishnava said, yes, he is not just a great devotee, he is an incarnation of God. So once I spoke highly of Vaishnava to Madhur and persuaded him to invite Vaishnava into his house. Madhur welcomed him with great courtesy. He fed his guest from silver plates. Then do you know what happened? Vaishnava said in front of Madhur, you will achieve nothing whatsoever in spiritual life unless you accept Krishna as your ideal. Madhur was a follower of the Shakta cult and a worshipper of the Divine Mother. At once his face became crimson. I nudged Vaishnava Charan. See, that is though a great devotee, got this one-sidedness. That's what Sri Ramakrishna is talking about. They think only their path, what they follow, is the only one which can lead to realization. So here Vaishnava Charan is saying, not exactly asking by Madhur to accept Vishnu, but he is making a big statement. You will achieve nothing whatsoever in spiritual life unless you accept Krishna as your ideal. Now Madhur is a great devotee of Divine Mother Kali, and of course Madhur will get annoyed. So Sri Ramakrishna says, his face became red. I understand that the Bhagavata also contains some statements like that. I hear that it is said there that trying to cross the ocean of the world without accepting Krishna as the ideal deity is like trying to cross the great sea by holding the tail of a dog. So how, unless you accept Krishna as your ideal, nothing will happen. You won't be able to gain anything in spiritual life. It's like trying to cross the ocean holding onto the tail of a dog. Each sect magnifies its own view. The Shaktas too try to belittle the Vaishnavas. It's not that only Vaishnavas do that. All the Vaishnavas, Shaktas, and Saivas, all the three main groups, they always tell each other like this. Now Sri Ramakrishna is talking about what the Shaktas say, the followers of Divine Mother. The Shaktas too try to belittle the Vaishnavas. The Vaishnavas say that Krishna alone is the helpsman to take one across the ocean of the world. That's the Vaishnava attitude. Krishna alone can take you across the ocean of the world. The Shaktas retort, oh yes, we agree to that. That Krishna is the oarsman, the helmsman to take you across. Our Divine Mother is the Empress of the universe. Why should she bother about a ferry boat? Therefore, she has engaged that fellow Krishna for that purpose. That's how Shaktas say, oh, she is the Empress of the universe. Do you think that she herself will come and ferry you across the ocean? No. For that, she has employed that fellow Krishna. So each group tries to belittle the other one to prove that our group is the best one. He is indeed a real man who has harmonized everything. Most people are one-sided. But I find that all opinions point to the one. All views, the Shaktas, the Vaishnavas, the Vedanta, have that one for their center. He who is formless is again endowed with form. It is he who appears in different forms. The attributeless Brahman is my father, God with attributes is my mother. Whom shall I blame? Whom shall I praise? The two pans of the scale are equally heavy. It is, we should say, in the modern time, we hear only from Sri Ramakrishna, this as many faith, so many paths. In the Vedas, we hear that Ekam Sat Vipra Bahudha Vadanti, truth is one, sages call it by various names. But the great teachers of the different schools gave importance to their particular attitude. Though they all knew this great truth of the Vedic dictum, truth is one, sages call it by various names, they didn't give, they sidestepped it. They pointed out, giving, our view is the one, just like here saying, if you hold on to Krishna, only then you can cross the ocean of the samsara. Of course, an exception we can see is Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna equally gave all importance to all the path, and he says in the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna, we can say, Krishna saying, Eyadhamam prapadyante tam sadhaiva pajamyaham mama vartma anuvartande manushya partha sarvashaha. In whatever way people, men and women, worship me, in the same way do I fulfill their desires. It is my path that people tread in all ways. All the paths lead to God. Different people take different paths. Now we come to Vedanta Hall, we take different roads. Everybody, if I say everybody should come along the Liverpool road from this direction, it is not possible. People, depending upon where you stay, you take different route. Depending upon our temperament, our aptitude, we adopt different path to God. So there is no standard path, the so-called standard path is not there in Vedanta. Vedanta says you can take whichever path, as long as you are sincere, you are earnest, you will reach God. There's no need to quarrel in the name of religion. And when you look at all the different religions, the differences in their dogmas, their rituals, their practices. But deep down, on the higher level, spiritual growth is similar. If you look at the mystics of all the different faiths, they all speak the same language. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, all the jackals howl in the same way from wherever they are. All the mystics speak the same way because they have direct experience of the Lord. But we find that generally, those who are liberal-minded, they don't have depth. Those who are liberal-minded and sympathetic towards other faith, they don't have the intensity of religious feeling. But those who are have got strong feeling, the narrow sect, their intensity comes from hating others. It's usually that's what happens. So Swami Vivekananda writes in his Bhakti Yoga lectures, the narrow sects, while displaying a very commendable love for their own ideal, are seen to have acquired every particle of that love by hating everyone who is not exactly the same opinion as themselves. So the more they have love for their ideal, the greater is their hatred for those who are not. What the real ideal situation is, be broad as the sky and encompassing all the different faiths. At the same time, have depth in your ideal. Hold on to your ideal with steadfast eagerness. So we want this blending of width and intensity. And in Vedanta gives a method to that with the idea of the chosen ideal, Ishta-nishta. You accept all the different paths as true, but you hold on to your own idea. Your form that you like, hold on to that. But you accept others are true. I don't say others are false. No, they are all true. But for me, this is the best. Sri Ramakrishna gives Sri Ramakrishna's examples are all very homely examples from day-to-day life. He says, the daughter-in-law in the house, she looks after the comfort and needs of all the members of the family, serves them, but her relation to her husband is special. That's a special one. So similarly, we should have respect and accept all the different religions, all the different faiths, all the different paths as true. But my special one is this. And there is one saying which is supposed to be uttered by Hanuman. It says, Srinathe Janaki Nathe Abheda Paramatmini Tadhabi Mama Sarvasam Rama Kamallochana. I know that the Lord of Sri, that is Vishnu, and the Lord of Janaki, that Sri Rama, both are inseparable. They are the same. But for me, my special object of adoration is Sri Rama. I know that Vishnu and Rama are the same. But for me, I like the form of Rama. So that's my special form of adoration. And there's another story which says, when the Lord took the form of Sri Krishna, one day Hanuman came to visit him. Now, hearing that Hanuman is coming, Sri Krishna told his queen, Rukmini, to assume the form of Sita, because unless he sees Rama and Sita, Hanuman won't be satisfied. The form of Krishna with Rukmini, no, he is not happy with that. He wants to see the form of Rama. So they had to assume that form. That's why she says, Ishtanishta, serve your particular ideal, but at the same time, accept everything as true. There is no need to hate anyone or deny that the various paths are to God are not true. But in the early stages, we have to hold on to our particular ideal very necessarily. It's like protecting a sapling. When the plant is a small sapling, especially in India, the cattle will come and eat. If you just plant something, the next day it will be gone. Or that, as we see in our Dharma property, you plant something, the next day the wallabies or the wombat has eaten it up. So we have to put a fence around it, small thing. In the early days, the beginner of the spiritual path, we have to protect. So hold on to your particular ideal, but don't hate others. Later, you'll be able to accept all others also. In the beginning, you say, well, this is my path. I don't know about other paths. But as you progress, you can say, well, other paths are true, but for me, this is the best. Just like food. We won't say, because I don't like one particular item of food, that's bad. No. For me, I don't like it. That's all. For me, this is a food I like, so I use that. That is good for you people. No, I don't say it is bad, but not for me. That's all. But if you practice religious liberalism in the beginning, it will be just tasting everything. There won't be any depth. It will be like curiosity, going from, what does this religious teachers say? Go and stay with them for a few days. Then, that's excitement is over after a few months. Then go to another group or another faith. What do they say? You are not gaining anything. You are simply wasting your time. And Sri Ramakrishna also said that God with form or attributes is as true as God without form and without attributes. Both are real and true, because there is no end to God. The variation with the differences that can be, or varieties of forms, there is no end. How can you say that God can take only this particular form? Have you known everything about God? You have seen even the great teachers of different sects. They have seen one aspect of God. What are these different faiths? What are different religions? They are all explaining or projecting one particular aspect of God, which they have realized. So that doesn't mean that's the whole of religion. That's all whole of God. And if you say God is omnipresent, omnipotent, you say God is omnipotent, and then you say God can be only this much. That means you are limiting. You say you can't, then your God is not omnipotent. He cannot take any other form. God is infinite and his variations are also infinite. And he appears to each one in the way they like to see him. As we said earlier about Krishna appearing to Hanuman as Sri Rama. God, according to our liking, God takes that particular form. But those who think of God all the time will know that all these different forms are true. For that, Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of the chameleon. A person went to the forest and saw and came back and said, "Oh, I saw a beautiful creature on the tree. It was red in color." Another person said, "I went there yesterday. Why do you say it's red? It is blue, bright blue. I saw it." The third person said, No, it is neither red or blue, it's green. And another person said it's yellow. And they all start fighting. And third one, fifth one said, it doesn't have any color. Then let's go and see. They all went. There was a person sitting under the tree. He said, yeah, all what he said is true. Sometimes it is yellow, sometimes it is red, sometimes it is green. You can take any form, any color, because it's a chameleon. God is like that. Whatever form you want to see, you will see God in that form. And you fight over saying that what I saw, the particular color is the only true color. Then Sri Ramakrishna continues. He who is described in the Vedas is also described in the Tantras and the Puranas. All of them speak about one Satchidananda, existence, knowledge, bliss. The Nitya and the Leela are the two aspects of one reality. Nitya is the formless, attributeless reality or Brahman, and Leela is that same reality with name and form. The Nitya and the Leela are the two aspects of the one reality. It is described in the Vedas as Om Satchidananda Brahman. In the Tantras as Om Satchidananda Shiva, the ever pure Shiva. In the Puranas as Om Satchidananda Krishna. All the scriptures, the Vedas, the Puranas, the Tantras, speak only of one Satchidananda. It is stated in the Vaishnava scriptures that it is Krishna himself who has become Kali. It's all there in the scriptures, but people, followers usually pick up one attitude, and then it's good to have one attitude, but they say what you say is wrong, what others say is wrong. That is, there comes all the problem. And all the fighting in the name of religion is only because of that. Because they say what I believe is the only truth. And all others, you say, is all wrong. And sometimes they go to the extent of saying that since you don't believe in what I believe, you don't have any right to exist in this world. Such extreme they go. Fanaticism can and be very dangerous, and he has taken a countless number of lives also because of the fanaticism. Sri Ramakrishna went to the porch for a few moments and then returned. As he was going out, Vishwambhar's daughter, 6 or 7-year-old, saluted him. On returning to the room, the master began talking to the little girl and her companions, who were of the same age. The child to the master, I saluted you and you didn't even notice it. Master smiling, did you? I really didn't notice. Child, then wait, I want to salute you again. The other foot too. See, children can make demands. Show the other feet also. I want other foot also. I want to salute, touch that also. Sri Ramakrishna laughed and sat down. He returned the salute and bowed to the child, touching the ground with his forehead. See, even to the child, Sri Ramakrishna is returning the salute. That is why Girish Chandra Ghosh said, this time the Lord has taken the form, incarnation, and the weapon he is using, not the bow and arrow or the discus like Krishna, no. This time his weapon is humility. He salutes others. Gayatriprana said, first time the leader of the Brahma Samaj, when he came, he didn't salute. First, Ramakrishna went to see him, and Keshav was writing, sitting at his table. He finished, they waited there. Sri Ramakrishna and his nephew Hriday. So Keshav finished writing and then sat on the floor, and they also sat down there. He didn't salute or anything. And then later, when Keshav came to visit Sri Ramakrishna in the Dakshineshwar temple, Sri Ramakrishna saluted him, bowing down and touching the ground. After a few times, Keshav learned to salute a holy person. That is why Girish said, this time the weapon is humility, salutation. He returned the salute and bowed to the child, touching the ground with his forehead. He asked her to sing. The child said, I swear I won't sing. When the master pressed her again, she said, should you press me when I said, I swear? The master was very happy with the children and sang light and frivolous songs to entertain them. See, when in this company of children, he becomes a child. He is a child. He is a divine child. He sang, come, let me braid your hair, lest your husband should scold you when he beholds you. The children and the devotees laughed. The children of Balaram's family, we can see they are really blessed. And they had, when later Swami Brahmananda used to stay there in Balaram's house, and they had great fun with Swami Brahmananda. One day, Maharaj Swami Brahmananda put on the bear skin and covered himself with head with a blanket, dark blanket, and the children were all sitting there and playing. He suddenly came in front of them, and they got a fright. They started screaming, and then one little child, through his tears, he said, I know who you are Maharaj, you can't frighten me, but he's crying. Then Maharaj removed the bear skin and the blanket and took them on the lap and laughed. Great fun. The children and the devotees laughed. Master to the devotees. The Paramahamsa is like a 5-year-old child. He sees everything filled with consciousness. At one time, I was staying at Kamarpur when Shivaram was 4 or 5 years old. Shivaram was Sri Ramakrishna's nephew, his elder brother's son. One day, he was trying to catch grasshoppers near the pond. The leaves were moving. To stop their rustling, he said to the leaves, hush, hush. I want to catch a grasshopper. Because for him, the leaves are very conscious. We know leaves they are living, but for him, it's just like a living being. Another day it was stormy. It rained hard. Shivaram was with me inside the house. There were flashes of lightning. He wanted to open the door and go out. I scolded him and stopped him. But still, he peeped out now and then. When he saw the lightning, he exclaimed, "There, uncle, they are striking matches again." The Paramahamsa is like a child. He cannot distinguish between a stranger and a relative. He is in particular about worldly relationships. So here, because Sri Ramakrishna was talking to the children, so he was talking about from the child, Paramahamsa is like a child. Paramahamsa, one who has attained, realized God, had direct realization of God, behaves like a child. And what are the characteristics? One, he sees everything filled with consciousness. He sees all the objects. Not that he doesn't see everything. He sees all the different objects around him, but he sees that everything full of consciousness. Like this table is consciousness, chairs, consciousness, people sitting here, everything full of consciousness. Then another characteristic of the Paramahamsa is cannot distinguish between stranger and a relative. All the same. He doesn't keep track of any of his whereabouts. Wherever he is, doesn't matter. He sees everything as Brahman. He is indifferent to his own movements. And sometimes the Paramahamsa behaves like a madman. So these are all, again we can see later, Sri Ramakrishna speaks about the characteristics of a vijnani. He speaks about jnani and vijnani. Jnani is the one with knowledge, and vijnani is one with direct realization or wisdom. And characteristics of vijnani and characteristics of a Paramahamsa are same. Sometimes the Paramahamsa behaves like a madman. A few days after the dedication of the temple at Dakshineshwar, a madman came there. A madman to ordinary people. The people are in the temple, he was a madman who was really a sage, endowed with the knowledge of Brahman. He had a bamboo twig in one hand and a potted mango plant in the other, and was wearing torn shoes. He didn't follow any social convention. So if you don't follow the convention of the society, what they do say about spiritual practices and social customs, then we will say that person is mad. And this person, he didn't follow any social conventions. After bathing in the Ganges, he didn't perform any religious rites. He didn't perform the Sandhya Vandana and all that you're supposed to do. No, he didn't do any of these things. He ate something that he carried in the corner of his wearing cloth. Then he entered the Kali temple and chanted hymns to the deity. Then you see the difference. The temple trembled with spiritual vibration. That's a difference. That's there you see, he is a realized soul, not in the external behavior. Then he entered the Kali temple and chanted hymns to the deity. The temple trembled. Haladhari was then in the shrine. The madman wasn't allowed to eat at the guest house, but he paid no attention to the slight. Those people, devotees who come, the visitors come, the sadhus come, holy men come, they were fed in the guest house, the feeding, the dining hall of the Kali temple. But this man, because to all appearances he was a madman, they didn't allow him to eat in the dining hall. He didn't mind. He paid no attention to this slight. He searched for food in the rubbish heap, where the dogs were eating crumbs from the discarded leaf plates. After people eat, all the leaf plates were thrown. In that rubbish, he looked for something to eat. Dogs were looking for something to eat, and he also went there and looked for something to eat. Now and then he pushed the dogs aside to get his crumbs. The dog didn't mind either. Haladhari followed him and asked, Who are you? Are you a Purna jnani, a perfect knower of Brahman? The madman whispered, Yes, I am a Purna jnani. My heart began to palpitate as Haladhari told me about this. I said to the Divine Mother, Mother, shall I too have to pass through such a state? See, Sri Ramakrishna immediately, this one sentence shows that he is identifying, he is saying that he is a knower of Brahman. Because this supposed madman, he said, Yes, I'm a Purnajnani, I'm a knower of Brahman. And Sri Ramakrishna is saying, Mother, shall I too have to pass through such a state? I'm also a knower of Brahman. We all went to see the man. He spoke words of great wisdom to us, but behaved like a madman before others. Haladhari followed him a great way when he left the garden. After passing the gate, he said to Haladhari, because Haladhari wanted some spiritual instructions. What shall I say to you? When you no longer make any distinction between the water of this pool on the side, the dirty pool on the side of the road, you make no distinction between the water of this pool and the water of the Ganges, then you will know that you have perfect knowledge. Perfect knowledge, when you have the same sightedness, see the same pure consciousness everywhere. You don't make any distinction between the dirty pool of water on the side of the road and the holy river Ganga. Sri Ramakrishna went to the inner apartments to see the deity. He offered, deity means the Lord Jagannath. He offered some flowers. The ladies of Balaram's family were pleased to see him. The master came back to the drawing room, continued conversation. The worldly minded practice devotion, japa, austerity only by fits and starts. They may do their austerities, their practice of japa, meditation for some time. Then they say, oh, we don't have time, or it's not giving any result, stop. Then again, after some time, maybe after a few months, start again. For some time, again stop. It's very hard. Practice has to be constant, continuous. The starting and stopping, occasionally, often and again, and it was not good. You have to do it continuously. Practice has to be constant, continuous, and for a long period. The worldly minded practice devotion, japa, and austerity only by fits and starts. But those who know nothing else but God repeat his name with every breath. That's what Holy Mother asked us to do. Just like the clock ticks. That means every second, repeat the name of the Lord. Some always repeat mentally, Om Rama. Even the followers of the path of knowledge repeat, Soham, I am he. You see, that is one good thing about japa, repetition of the name of the Lord. You can do it anywhere, anytime. There is no barrier to that. Nobody can, meditation you have to sit down and do. Or there is walking meditation, but in a crowd, you can do that. But repetition of the name of the Lord, in a crowd, you can do, no problem, because you are doing it mentally. Not loudly, not to show off, don't even have to move the lips, do it mentally. Anywhere, anytime you can do. That's a great thing about repetition of the name of the Lord. And is it only for repetition of the name of God? Then what about those who follow the formless aspect? Sri Ramakrishna says, even they repeat, Soham, Soham, I am he, I am he. There are others whose tongues are always moving, repeating the name of the Lord. name of God. One should remember and think of God constantly. That's what Sri Krishna told Arjuna, Mam Anusmara Yudhecha. He didn't say, think of me all the time when giving up all your work. No. Krishna is asking Arjuna and people in general, remember me and do work. Remember me and do your work. Because Arjuna had to fight. So he said, fight. Remember me and fight. But for us, remember me and do your work. Keep the mind on God. That's what Sri Ramakrishna said. When you have work to do, hold on to God with one hand and do your work. When your work is finished, hold on to God with both hands. As long as you have work to do in the world, you have to look after the family, go earn money. You have to do all that. You are not asked to ignore your family and go to the forest and live as a mendicant. No. Live in the family, in the society, do all your fulfill your obligations, but hold on to God with one hand. Then, if you're holding on to God with one hand, with firmly, the blows of the world won't throw you away, throw you down. You'll be holding on tightly. The more the blows come, the tighter will be the grip. An example Sri Ramakrishna gives is, the child is walking, holding on to father's hand. Then his child sees something beautiful on the roadside, and the attention goes away, the grip loosens, child may stumble and fall down. But if the father is holding the child's hand, something may happen and father's attention is diverted there, the grip will become tighter. So if we hold on to God, and then if you hold, God will be holding us. Then things happen, blows come, we will be held tighter. Isn't there one writing, I read somewhere, there's footprints in the sand. One person had a dream and he saw the footprints, all the whole life, in events in his life, he kept seeing. And there he can see two sets of footprints. But at some places, some events when it happened, there's only one set of footprints. So he's got two sets of footprints. One is his, one other one, the Lord. So the Lord is always with him. But some critical moments, when something really bad happened, there's only one set of footprints. So he complained, Lord, you said you will be with me all the time. And when this critical thing happened, you left me, abandoned me. And the Lord replied, no, my child, I was carrying you. Only one set of footprints, because that's mine. I was carrying you. The Lord will be always protecting us if you hold on to him, if you remember him. That's what he says. One should remember and think of God constantly. Pandit Sashidhar entered the room with one or two friends and saluted the master. Now, Sashidhar has met Sri Ram. Sri Ramakrishna came to meet Sashidhar in Calcutta, and then Sashidhar returned his visit to Dakshineshwar. Now, hearing that Sri Ramakrishna is again in Calcutta in Balaram's house, Sashidhar was staying with a friend not far from there, came to visit him. Master to Sashidhar. The first sign of knowledge is a peaceful nature. The second is the absence of egotism. You have both. There are other indications of a jnani. He shows intense dispassion in the presence of a sadhu. He is a lion when at work, for instance, when he lectures, and is full of wit before his wife. All laugh. So these are the signs of knowledge. Person who has got knowledge has got a peaceful nature, absence of egotism, then intense dispassion when in the presence of holy people, and full of energy at work. They're like a lion, full of energy at work, and full of wit. But the nature of the vijnani is quite different, as was the case with Chaitanya Deva. That Sri Ramakrishna always speaks about the difference between jnani and vijnani. There are three. One, ajnana, ignorance, don't know. Jnana, knowledge. You know, intellectually, you have studied the scriptures, you know God exists. God is there. But you haven't had direct experience of God. That is vijnani, direct personal experience of God. And the example he gives is, some people have heard about milk. Yeah. Milk comes from the cow. It's white. It's good for health. Heard. But don't have any other idea of milk. Others have seen it. They know all the qualities of milk. And it is good it is nourishing. It's a nourishing food, everything. But a third group is there who had drunk milk, had nourished and become healthy. That is vijnana. Have direct experience. The nature of the vijnani is quite different, as was the case with Chaitanya Deva. He acts like a child or a madman or an inert thing or a ghoul. While in the mode of a child, he sometimes shows childlike guilelessness, sometimes the frivolity of adolescence, and sometimes while instructing others, the strength of a young man. Pandit, by what kind of bhakti does one realize God? What sort of bhakti, devotion one should have to realize God? Master, three kinds of bhakti are found according to the nature of the man. Sattvic bhakti, rajasic bhakti, and tamasic bhakti. Three types. Sattvic devotion, superior. Rajasic, the mediocre. And tamasic, the inferior. The sattvic bhakti is known to God alone. It makes no outward display. A man with such devotion loves privacy. Perhaps he meditates inside the mosquito net where nobody sees him. When this kind of devotion is awakened, one hasn't long to wait for the vision of God. The appearance of the dawn in the east shows that the sun will rise before long. Sattvic devotion, the person there's no external outward display. Maybe the person is sitting quietly in his own room and meditating, but nobody knows. They think, oh, perhaps the person the door is closed, or maybe he or she is resting, but actually is meditating, thinking of or doing his spiritual practices. And Sri Ramakrishna says, when that type of devotion is gained, then soon you will have God realization. The man with rajasic bhakti feels like making a display of his devotion before others. He worships the deity with 16 ingredients, very elaborate ritualistic worship. Enters the temple wearing a silk cloth, puts around his neck a string of rudraksha beads interspersed with here and there with beads of gold and ruby, all along with the rudraksha beads on his mala, japamala. He has got gold beads and also a ruby, showing off. And when visitors come, he will be showing around. This is our worship hall. This is the deity. This is where we have the big worship of Durga. And we have 10 days of worship. People, they want to show off. Now, even now, when we have if those who are not having the worship like that at home, they offer worship in the temple. And then they say, they will tell all their friends, oh, we are going to have worship in the temple, we please come. Showing off. And all this is for with some desire for personal gain, not for true devotion. But then, of course, Sri Krishna says they are all noble because slowly this will lead to true devotion. There is no harm in that. It's better than having no devotion at all. This is a beginning. Man with tamasic bhakti, as an inferior devotion, shows the courage and boisterousness of a highway robber. The highway robber goes on his expedition openly, shouting, kill, plunder. He isn't afraid even of 8 police inspectors. The devotee with tamasic bhakti also shouts like a madman, hara hara, om om. That is, the devotees of Shiva shout like that. Or victory to Kali. He has great strength of mind and burning faith. That is very important, burning faith. A Shakta has such faith, devotee of Divine Mother. He says, what? I have uttered once the name of Kali and Durga. I have uttered once the name of Rama. Can there be any sin in me? I have uttered the name of God. How can there be sin in me? The name of God purifies completely. And that faith has to be there. The Vaishnavas have a very humble and lowly attitude. Looking at Balaram's father, but because Balaram's father is a great Vaishnava devotee, so Sri Ramakrishna saying, looking at him, they tell their rosary. They will be going on repeating the name of Vishnu, Lord, on the rosary. They tell their rosary and whine and bimbo. Oh Krishna, be gracious to us. We are wretched. We are sinners. See the difference? Whereas the follower of Divine Mother will say, what? I have uttered the name of God. How can be any sin in me? That burning faith has to be there. One should have such fiery faith as to be able to say, I have uttered the name of God. How can I be a sinner? There is one story. It says, the story goes that a king had committed some evil deed, and then he came to a sage to ask for what he should do as a penance. The sage was not there. His young son, the boy was there. The boy said, you repeat the name of the Lord 3 times. With faith, you repeat the name of the Lord 3 times. The sin of that particular evil will go. When the father came back, the king went away. The father came back, and then the child reported the king came and asked this. And I said, repeat the name of the Lord 3 times. Father said, what? You asked him to repeat the name of the Lord 3 times. Repeat the name of the Lord once. The name is so powerful. Repeat it once with full faith. That will remove everything. Repeat with full faith. If you repeat, you are pure. Because God is pure. That faith is needed. That's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. Thank you.
We have the yoga class this Thursday. This Friday, we won't be having the discussion. I'm going to be away, that's the reason. And we will recommence the following Friday, and that will be the Gita discussion. And next Sunday, Gayatriprana will be giving her monthly Raja Yoga talk. And thanks for those joining us via Zoom. And as always, we've recorded this and we'll be putting it up on our YouTube channel later. The donation plate there, donation box up the back. And we'll conclude with listening to a guided meditation by Rev.Pravrajika, Ajayaprana, Mataji.
A rope through ignorance appears to be a snake. Even so, through ignorance of the self is the individualized selfhood of the Atman. And told by a person in whom one has faith, the illusion disappears and one sees the rope. Even so, I realized through the words of the Guru that I am not the individualized soul, but Shiva himself am I. I am not born. How can there be birth and death to me? I am not the white layers. How can I have hunger and thirst? I am not the mind. Whence can there be misery and delusion to me? I am not the doer. Whence can there be bondage and freedom to me? Shankaracharya. Life is a journey into unknown lands. We are like travelers in a strange country. This world can never be our real home. We have come on a pleasure trip to this earth for a short while from our permanent abode of peace, security, and joy, just for a holiday. This journey started long, long ago, and we have still to go a long, long way to reach back home. The trials and tribulations, joys and pleasures, meetings and separations are all part of the program of the trip. No one can escape that. But one who knows at the bottom of the heart that all one's experiences on this earth are but part of the scenario associated with the journey, and one is participating in it only as a spectator, as a traveler, to make God's show lovelier and more interesting. Such a person can enjoy the journey of life to its fullest extent. Let us find out the real essence within us, which is the real participant in this big drama. Closing the eyes, let us imagine that we are going deep, deep into our within. Just imagine that you are diving deep into the abyss of the heart. It is all darkness. Swim on, swim, don't stop. There's a long way to go. Deep into the inside of the heart. Let us swim on, glide on effortlessly. There is no obstacle to block our path. Though it is dark, the swimming is enjoyable. As we go on and on into the interior of our heart, in the far off distance, you see a glimmer of light, like a tiny little distant star. That is our aim. Keeping the tiny spot of light in our view, let us dive towards that. As we slowly progress, the tiny spot of brilliance becomes larger and brighter very slowly. And then we find a large chamber full of effulgence and splendor in front of us. Look, and we can see. We stop. No more swimming. No more to go forward. No more darkness. No more hesitation. No more groping. It's all light. It's all brightness. We are in a chamber full of effulgence and splendor and glory. We are surrounded by a beautiful luster. Feel it all around us. Large chamber, in the center of the chamber is the throne of God. Seated on a high throne of golden hue, He, the Lord of the universe, has been waiting for us to come. Any form of the Lord, we can visualize the one that we like the most. If it is difficult to visualize any form, just think of a bright ball of heavenly radiance, poised beautifully on a wonderfully beautiful throne, just poised there. The omnipresent Lord's presence in our heart has been made visible because of the arduous journey that we have been doing, and the hankering and yearning in our heart to feel His presence. We are surrounded by that brilliance, and we are standing in the front of a glorious throne, in the center of which is poised in perfect beauty a ball of radiance, not of this world. It's a heavenly radiance. Look at the beatific vision. Fully lighted chamber of the heart. In the center, the throne of golden color. And He, the master of all souls, waiting there for us. Waiting there for us. We are in the great presence. Feel the joy rising in the heart. Feel the coolness around us. Feel the sense of security filling the whole system. We are safe. There is only peace, peace and peace in our heart. The glorious effulgence all around us, and the wonderful presence just in front of us. Peace, only peace. Hari Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Peace, peace, peace.